the problems nobody notices. One of the most interesting things about communication problems is that they rarely announce themselves as communication problems. When people think about poor communication, they often imagine obvious situations: a heated argument in a meeting, a badly written email, a language barrier between colleagues, or perhaps a presentation that went badly wrong. In reality, the communication issues that cost organizations the most money, time, and reputation are usually far less visible. Over the years, I have worked in manufacturing environments, quality systems, auditing, training, and multilingual settings. I have sat in meetings where everyone appeared to agree, attended project reviews where every action seemed clear, and observed teams who genuinely believed they were working towards the same objective. Yet months later the project would be delayed, an audit finding would emerge, a customer complaint would arrive, or a costly mistake would surface. The strange thing was that nobody could point to a specific moment where everything had gone wrong. No dramatic disagreement had taken place. Nobody had stormed out of a meeting. There was no obvious conflict. If you had observed the conversations yourself, you might have concluded that communication had been excellent. Yet something had clearly happened. When everyone hears the same words. What I began to notice was that the problem was often hidden beneath the surface of the conversation itself. People were hearing the same words but attaching different meanings to them. Instructions that seemed clear to one person were interpreted differently by another. Team members nodded in agreement while privately holding unanswered questions. In international environments, cultural habits influenced how feedback was given, how concerns were raised, and whether people felt comfortable challenging a decision. Because these things are largely invisible, organizations often focus on the wrong problem. A manager may believe they have a performance issue when the real issue is a misunderstanding that has been quietly multiplying for weeks. A quality team may investigate a recurring nonconformance without recognizing that the root cause lies in assumptions made during earlier conversations. An executive team may spend months redesigning processes when the real obstacle is that different departments are working from different interpretations of the same objective. By the time the visible problem appears, the communication failure has often been developing for a long time. What lies beneath the surface? I sometimes compare it to standing on a Hebridean shoreline and watching the sea. From the surface everything appears calm and predictable. Yet beneath the water there are currents moving in different directions, hidden rocks, shifting sandbanks, and powerful tides. A visitor looking only at the surface might assume the route ahead is straightforward. A local knows there is much more happening underneath. Communication works in much the same way. Most organizations are highly aware of what is visible. They monitor performance indicators, customer complaints, audit findings, project milestones, and financial results. What they rarely measure are the assumptions people make, the questions that remain unasked, the conversations that never happen, or the concerns that individuals decide not to raise. These invisible factors are surprisingly powerful. I have seen situations where everyone involved was intelligent, experienced, and committed to doing a good job, yet the outcome was still poor because nobody realized they were operating from slightly different understandings. Each individual conversation seemed harmless enough. The real damage came from the accumulation of small misunderstandings over time. Why traditional communication training misses the mark? This is one of the reasons why traditional communication training does not always solve the problem. Many programs focus on presentation skills, confidence, body language, or public speaking techniques. Those skills certainly have value, but they do not necessarily address the hidden communication risks that exist inside organizations. A confident person can still misunderstand a message. A polished presentation can still leave people with different interpretations. A well-run meeting can still produce confusion if participants leave with conflicting assumptions about what has been agreed. The question that interests me most is not what was said. The question is what was understood. That simple shift changes everything. Looking at communication through a different lens. When we developed the MC3 method, I wanted a way of helping organizations examine communication in the same way auditors examine systems. Rather than focusing only on individual behavior, I became interested in the patterns, habits, and hidden risks that repeatedly create misunderstandings. Instead of asking who made the mistake, I wanted to understand how the communication environment allowed the mistake to happen in the first place. This approach often reveals things that clients have not previously considered. What appears to be a quality issue may actually be a clarity issue. What looks like resistance may be uncertainty. What feels like poor performance may be the result of differing expectations that were never fully discussed. Making the invisible visible. When these hidden factors become visible, organizations often experience a moment of recognition. They realize that many of their challenges are not caused by a lack of intelligence, effort, or commitment. The people involved were usually doing their best. The real issue was that the communication system itself contained blind spots. That is why the most valuable communication work often happens long before a crisis occurs. It involves identifying risks while they are still small, making expectations visible, encouraging clarification, and creating environments where people feel able to question assumptions before those assumptions become expensive. The real reason MC3 works. More often they are the quiet misunderstandings sitting unnoticed in the background, waiting for the right moment to create consequences. Clients often contact us because they want to solve a visible problem. What they frequently discover is that the real answer lies in something they could not see. And that, more than anything else, is the reason MC3 works.